This is Bill Seng, the author of the Giganotus Rex series. You can find links to purchase the Giganotus Rex books at williamhseng.com, and Seng is S-E-N-G. Or you can go to amazon.com. You can find books there. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Enjoy the show. I hope you're all enjoying the Giganotus Rex story, The Wrath of Giganotus Rex. We are going to be doing something a little bit different today, and this is kind of in preparation for what I will be doing in the near future, because The Wrath of Giganotus Rex is book 1 inside of the Giganotus Rex series, but it's not the only book in the Giganotus Rex series. Now, if you are listening on the podcast right now, you're probably not going to get book number 2, but what you will be able to do is to go to Patreon shortly, and you'll be able to start listening to book 2 there. Then book 2 is called Giganotus Rex, The Battle of Midland. And that, in part, is kind of our topic today. We're not going to be talking about the book itself per se, but we are going to be talking about the first rival monster of Giganotus Rex inside of the book series, and that is a monster by the name of Han. And I'm going to introduce my guests here who are going to help me to talk about Han. So we have my older son, Jaden.
Howdy.
You might hear my wife in the background, maybe. And we have my younger son, Carter.
Hey.
So apparently they have their own cheer squad along with them in the background. I don't know if you're able to hear that or not.
Oh my god.
But what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be doing a profile of this monster, talking about him a little bit from book number 2, as well as with his role inside of the Giganotus Rex series. Now, just disclaimer right now. The series has not been completed quite yet, so I'm not done writing the books quite yet. Right now, I am on I'm writing book number 5 right now, and hopefully that will be done really, really soon. But Han has a role in most of the book series. So I'm trying to think of the best way we can do this. So first of all, Jaden, would you like to tell us a little bit about Han? Like, what does he look like exactly?
So, imagine like a giant gorilla with a really long tail and has a mane. He's black and white.
Black and white, like, what do you mean black and white?
Like he like has like black skin and like white like hair. And he has a fountain cut in a mane.
Yeah, when he says fountain cut, if you're not familiar with the fountain cut, like think of a little girl, and if she like puts her ponytail straight up, that's essentially a fountain cut right there.
Mm.
And Carter, quick question: does Han have any weapons, and if so, what is his weapon?
Yes, and it's like this smell stick. Pretty much.
Carter, I'm not gonna lie, it sounded like you said a smell stick.
A metal stick.
Say that one more time into the mic.
A metal stick.
A metal stick.
Stick.
In English, you might call that a staff or a rod, or some people might even call it a bow, but he has this enormous metal staff that he uses. So let me tell you a little bit about Han to start off. So Jaden just told you he's essentially... Now, if you've watched VeggieTales, you would know that he's not an ape. He's a monkey. And Han is essentially, and the reason why we know he's not an ape is because he's got a tail. And the way the VeggieTales song goes is, if it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey. Even if it has a monkey kind of shape. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey. If it doesn't have a tail, it's not a monkey, it's an ape. Okay, so Han has a tail. That means that he is not an ape. He is a monkey. And he is essentially, in my series, in the Giganotus Rex series, he's essentially the King Kong figure inside of the Giganotus Rex series. Now, he's a little bit different because I'm a pretty big fan of the original King Kong versus Godzilla. And I think that when I first heard the news that they were going to be doing Godzilla versus Kong for the MonsterVerse, I think that's when I really went on hyperdrive in trying to develop Han. The book is released in 2018, so I was conceptualizing for him before then. But I wanted to make him different from King Kong because let's face it, King Kong in relation to Godzilla and King Kong versus Godzilla wasn't really a match. The Godzilla was able to breathe atomic fire, and King Kong had nothing except for they made up a power that he could use electricity hands at the end of the movie. Well, with Han, as we already mentioned, that he does have a staff, but that's not all that's special about Han. Han is mysterious in his origin. He's not from the natural world per se. In fact, when he's introduced in the book series, Han is just a little monkey. He's a pet monkey of a man named Murakoshi Honda. And I'm not going to tell you too much about him right now. Well, I guess I could tell you a little bit about him because that's what this is. It's a profile on the monster. Is that that Han is actually essentially from another dimension. He is more or less an angelic creature. And in the series, I'll call it the element of dark matter starts to play a serious role inside of the story. And so Han is brought in because of the testing of a new weapon that causes the spiritual creatures that we can't see to become physical creatures in the physical world. And granted that, they're very, very powerful creatures inside of the realm in which we dwell because they aren't entirely natural. So Han starts off as a monkey, a tiny monkey, but he has the power to be able to grow into a monster not quite the size of G-Rex, but pretty big, pretty close to this size because Han is actually really strong. And that was one of the things I had to wrestle with. How big do we want to make him? Because I have to balance out his strength with his size so that it turns into a good fight and a believable fight. And on top of that, I decided to give him a staff because G-Rex is able to breathe fire. And so that makes a big difference to be able to give him a weapon as well. So I mentioned that Han can grow really big, like close to the size of Giganotosaurus Rex. This question is for either Jaden or Carter. And I'm going to ask, how is it that Han goes about growing from a tiny monkey into an enormous monster?
So, Han likes to embarrass him, so he
Embarrass who?
Murakoshi Honda, and he makes him dance and sing, just so that he can grow.
Yeah, I mean, those details are a little bit more ambiguous. It's something that I didn't really expressly write him, but he essentially forces Murakoshi Honda, who is his friend and handler, so to speak, to do a dance. So he does a song and a dance in order to make Murakoshi Honda does a song and a dance in order to make Han grow. Now, that might sound kind of weird, but you're talking about a guy, namely me, that is a big Godzilla fan that wanted to incorporate certain Easter eggs inside of this series. And this one particularly was actually in relation to King Caesar. Because in the Godzilla series, King Caesar he's a protector monster. But in order to wake him up, this lady who is the descendant of the Kumi royal family or something like that, that she has to sing this song to wake him up. And you just have to scratch your head a little bit. It's like, wait. She has to sing a song? That's kind of ridiculous. And that's kind of what I'm playing off of. But there's also another element to it, is that I'm also playing off of the idea that religious rituals can oftentimes be very silly. The religious rituals that people do to appease the gods, essentially, are kind of silly. And that's another thing about Han. So, Carter, where did I come up with the name Han?
Hanuman.
And who is Hanuman?
A giant monkey god with a staff.
Yeah, Hanuman is a giant monkey god of Indian lore that carries a staff. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, he's actually a fairly popular Eastern god. In fact, I believe a Buddhist author wrote a story where they took the character Hanuman, but they recharacterized him as what's known as the Monkey King. And I can't remember what the name of the story is off the top of my head, but it has something to do with the journey west or something along those lines about Buddhism's spread to the Western world. And this will be very familiar to listeners who are familiar with anime because Hanuman, the Monkey King, has been popularized through a character in anime known as Dragon Ball's main character, Goku, which is very fascinating because when he's introduced, he actually has a what's called the power pole, which is the staff that he carries around. He has a tail, and he is able, even though he looks human, he's able to transform initially into a giant ape monster. That's where I got the idea actually to make Han carry a staff because I was thinking like, okay, again, this is before Godzilla versus Kong, where they gave Kong an axe. If I had known they were going to give Kong an axe, I actually probably would not have given Han a staff to fight Giganotus Rex with. So what I did is I thought to myself, okay, how do I even the odds? And I thought, okay, he needs a weapon of some sort. I was like, okay, but what kind of weapon? I thought to myself, well, what would it make sense for a monkey or a gorilla to have to fight against a giant fire breathing monster? And I thought, you know what? Dragon Ball is based off the Monkey King, yada, yada, yada. Hence, the best weapon for him to use is a staff, especially since it's got good range and is able to, in some respects, because Godzilla has atomic breath now, and so it shoots out like a beam. But flames have a limited range. And because of that, I thought a staff with the range that it has is the perfect weapon to counterbalance G Rex's fire attack. So, what sorts of things do you guys find funny about Han? Anything at all you find funny about Han? And raise your hand if you want to talk, Carter.
It was interesting that he has a staff and his name is based off of Hanuman.
Kind of funny, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I like the way I like his fighting style. Like it's really funny, and I mean, he looks funny. I mean, the first thing I thought when I saw his head, I don't know why, but I thought of the movie Minions. I don't know. The fountain cut. I don't know. It's just I thought the fountain cut was so funny looking, and like I thought his head actually I think looks a fair amount like a lion's too. So yeah.
And I have to say that's partly a little bit from the King Caesar inspiration. I just thought that make him look unique. And then, of course, of all things, in Godzilla versus Kong, they give Kong a beard. And I'm just thinking, like, are they like just following me around, like getting my ideas? Carter, go ahead.
Seems like it.
I was thinking, wasn't it the first picture of Han where he uses his staff to hit another monster in the head?
No, that wasn't the first picture I drew of Han. The first picture I drew of Han, I drew during my work hours at Marathon Petroleum Corporation on the back of a time card. So that was pretty fun. That's actually one of the inside things about Han, and actually that might be the best. Well, I don't know because I think the official drawing I did for Han was pretty good as well.
No,
But the first one I did was pretty good. No, that was not the first one I did for the books for him. So you just mentioned something interesting though. So how about you guys tell us a little bit about the history of Han? Who was Han's first battle against? In the book series, not in the storyline, but in the book series itself.
I can't remember.
Jaden, help him out.
Giganotus Rex.
Yeah, so the first one he fights is Giganotus Rex. How did that fight go? Raise your hand if you want to answer this one.
There was a lot of wax that Han had. I always thought that one of the pictures that you drew was actually kind of funny with him whacking G-Rex in the head. And yeah, it started off with G-Rex destroying military, Han destroying military, and the news was just sounding terrible, and that was funny. And I thought it was a funny fight in my opinion.
Okay, so you think it was a funny fight, Carter?
why they fought is because they thought that Gigantus Rex killed some, like one of their friends, like I think it was the main character, or not the main character, but someone they knew at least.
Yeah, Murakoshi Honda was friends with William Stevens, and he thought that Giganotosaurus Rex killed his friend William Stevens. The next question I got, so he's also, and Han appears in book 3 as well. One of the things about Han is you can't really kill him per se because he's of angelic origins. And so he does appear in book 3 as well. What is his role like in book number 3? Raise a hand.
So he joins G-Rex, and they fight like a bunch of different monsters, like Eden.
No, that's fine.
So he teams up with G-Rex, and they fight a bunch of monsters from Eden. And the best fight that Han has is against a Troll Casa.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Troll Casa in a future episode, but essentially, Troll Casa is, just as the name sounds, a giant troll monster that I think,
Really ugly,
if I'm really ugly, and I think that I made Troll Casa possibly stronger than Han, but a lot dumber than Han. And so Han takes Troll Casa to school then. Carter, do you remember, man, do I want to talk about book 4 and Han's role in that at all? We might be able to, we could probably talk about his role in book 4. Carter, you want to say anything about Han in relation to book 4, like what he does in book 4?
He rescues Gigantus Rex from Ophion when he gets eaten.
Who is Ophion?
He's this like giant snake, like this giant monster with a snake head and neck.
Well, you're right the first time. He starts off as a snake.
He starts off as a snake. He has 2 forms.
What did Ophion do?
He
To Han.
He ate Han.
Very good. That's all I'm asking for. We'll do a profile on Ophion eventually, so we'll get to talk about him. But right now we're just talking about Han. So he got eaten by Ophion in book number 4, and currently I'm working on book number 5. He has a role in book number 5 too. So Han has become a recurring character, a character that I like quite a bit. I think Han's pretty fun. He was a lot of fun to draw, by the way, especially his first one was his first picture that I drew of him, in terms of not the one I drew on the back of my time card at Marathon Drawing Corporation, but rather the one that I drew in my drawing book to actually get the official look of Han down. And so he's a pretty fun monster, I think. Like I said, he's my Kong sort of monster. I can't remember if I decided that he was going to team up with Giganotosaurus Rex before or after it was announced that Godzilla and Kong were going to team up. Now, mind you, I think Orphans of Eden came out before 2020. I think, or maybe it came out a little bit after. I don't know. I can't remember if it came before or after Godzilla versus Kong, but I may have already gotten the news that Godzilla and Kong were teaming up, but I don't remember. I remember I wanted G-Rex and Han to team up anyway, because I thought that it'd be pretty cool. But Han is a pretty powerful monster. His lore is that he's never lost a fight before he fought against G-Rex. So I thought that Han would be a good character to be a recurring character. And he's got a lot of personality, too, because he is kind of a pet, but kind of not at the same time. So he's loyal to the humans. When he fights G-Rex the first time, it's not out of malice. Instead, it is out of duty. It's because of obedience to the one who is giving him his marching orders, essentially. So I think that pretty much does it for Han's profile, unless there's something I'm missing. Anything I'm missing about Han?
There's one. And in book 4, he turns into my favorite version of Han, and that's the human-sized warrior type.
Yeah, Han. I forgot to mention that Han actually has an additional form. He probably has when I say he probably has, this is based on my discretion because, hey, I'm the author. But he probably has numerous forms he can take upon. The form that Jaden's talking about is, we learned that in book number 4, he has a form where he can transform to about the size of a human, but he's dressed very ornately. He's dressed in an outfit like human clothes, pretty much, and he still carries his staff, and he's able to do a number on humans when he feels like it. So again, it's one of those things with Murakoshi Honda and Han, and more or less Han's able to transform pretty much whenever he wants, really, but he's just stubborn. Carter?
And also, he can fight spiritual beings that humans can't even hurt.
Yeah, Han is effective in fighting against the spiritual beings as well, because there are spiritual beings inside the book series, and we'll get to them eventually too. But Carter, what else you got?
And also, when he fights those spiritual beings, he's technically physical at that time, and he beats up the spiritual beings when he's physical. So yeah, I find that interesting.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with the nature of the weapon that I call the dark cannon, because the dark cannon is able to manifest spiritual beings into physical reality, and so it makes it so that Han can fight with these spiritual beings, and they're able to fight back against him. To learn more about that, I would encourage you to check out the Giganotus Rex books. The first book is The Wrath of Giganotus Rex. The second book is Giganotus Rex, The Battle of Midland, and that is the one where Han is introduced, and Han is featured as the main opponent of Giganotus Rex. And it's, I think, of all the books, probably the most fun and lighthearted of them. The other ones take a little bit, I don't want to say they take a more serious tone, but they're a little more serious than the Battle of Midland, but it's still a very, very fun book. So I think it's about time to wrap things up. Do you guys have any closing comments?
And the next one is Orphans of Eden, which that one has a bunch of monsters.
Yeah, Orphans of Eden, I don't want to say it's my Destroy All Monsters of the series, but it's got a bunch of monsters in it. It's a pretty fun one. Jaden, any closing comments?
Han is probably my he's on my top 5 for sure. Because he's tough. Like you can't really kill him, and yeah, he's just awesome.
No, when you say he's your top 5, that impressed me, because you mean top 5 inside of like the Giganotus Rex series, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also, in my top 5, I think he's either 2, 3, or 4.
So he's your top 5 also.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I think all of my monsters are my top 5. But no, I do have certain ones that I created that I actually do like. I'll get to some of my favorites in the future. And Han, I mean, you know, it's hard for me to say that one of them isn't my favorite, but Han definitely has a special place in my heart, in the respect that, yes, he is the first rival monster that I created for Giganotus Rex to fight against. So it's a very fun book to write. I enjoyed it. And it was actually a book that I had to essentially totally rewrite, even, because I changed in many respects who Han was throughout the writing of the book. So that was fun. So I'd like to thank you for joining us for the Giganotus Rex podcast, a nice little bonus feature for you. Have a good day.